Aquarius Ascendant, Aquarius Rising, welcome. This is your astrology December. Walk through the frequencies of your month of January. We're going to talk about some of the happenings. At the end of November, actually, there is an eclipse. And I'm going to tell you what area of your life happens, break that down, and the meaning of the eclipse so that you have a good understanding about it. So you feel comfortable about it, so you're not in fear over it. Then we're going to talk about the December energies. Another eclipse in December, but I'm going to tell you the location, the where in your life, okay? I'm going to tell you the location, where it happens in your life, the meaning of that location, and of course, attach the dates to it so that you are prepared, so that you can go forward with knowledge, right? I read a quick quote from somebody the other day, and it simply said, knowledge over ignorance. Yes, 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 because that ignorance, when we choose to not know something, it ends up leading us down a path of fear. We end up rejecting something because we're not familiar with it. Now, Aquarians, I know that doesn't really jive with you. Aquarian energy is all about being out there, being scientific, being the thinker, understanding there's something there that goes beyond our human capability, our human capacity to learn and to understand. There's something beautiful, something cosmic, something celestial and universal that can come through, right? These divine degrees that can come through and save us, that can come through and help us, that come through at the times when we need it most and give us answers. And it's not just the celestial bodies, but it's our cellular answers, our cellular solutions. It's the song of the spheres. It's the sounds of the soul. So let's take a walk through your December and talk about your January. We're going to begin at the butt end of your November, which was the eclipse. At the butt end of November, November 30th, Aquarius, you had an eclipse. Let's dive deep now and find out where this happened in your life. This eclipse is happening at 9 degrees of Gemini. Now, 9 degrees of Gemini only means something if you have your own chart. If you don't have your own chart, I would recommend getting it. If you would like that, I can get you an accurate chart. Accuracy is everything in astrology. Comment below if you want me to do that for you. And if you have your own resources, if you have your own chart already, wonderful, then you can watch along. I recommend holding your chart in your hand while you're listening, while you're watching. And it helps to really understand what's going on. But if you're not there and if that's not your thing, cool. Then let me just talk about general energies and the meanings and the location and the dates. Everybody wants dates because the dates make things make sense. It's the timing of the cycle. It's the energetic calendar. It's just pull your calendar out and bam, this is when it happens. If you want me to just simply take a fast, quick, free look, just comment down below and say, gee, I need you to take a peek to give me a better understanding of what I'm going to be looking at, what I'm going to be facing. Just comment below. If you don't like that, if you don't want to put your birth digits down there, go ahead and contact me at astrog.com. The information is down below. Maybe I'll put it over here somewhere in the video. I don't know where I'll put it, but either way, I've got lots of ways and lots of options for you to contact me. Not everybody is comfortable with putting their stuff, right there on the platform for the whole world to read. Trust me, you want accuracy and you want to know what your rising sign is. So 9 degrees of Gemini energy in your fifth house. Fifth house is all about creativity, how I express uniquely. However you think, however you feel, but expressing that, communicating that in a very unique way. Now, this is the house of creativity. And we say creativity because it's your unique expressions, the way that you express, the way that you share what you're thinking or feeling, the way that you share, the way that you communicate. This is the fifth house energy. So typically, art, creative forms of writing. I say writing because you've got Gemini. Gemini energy is the scribe, the one that keeps track of things, right? It's social media, it's news, it's information. It's, okay, this happened and I'm writing down the date. This happened and I'm writing down the date. Like, that's the scribe of our times. That is Gemini energy. That is the reporter. That is the one who was the talker, the relator, the communicator. Gemini energy is all about talking and relating with people as though they're buds, they're buddies, they're networking, but it's also sibling and neighbor energy. People in my community, people are in my close environment, right? So literally next door neighbors, literally people in the home, siblings, brothers and sisters, but people who you know who feel like siblings, people that you're close to. This can be coworkers, right? And for the little ones who are still at school, this can be their schoolmates. So Gemini energy is this the way I talk and relate and communicate with you. It's how I talk, how I relate. And then in the 5th house, it's being very creative with it. So this is a great placement for someone to be like a screenwriter, right? Writing screenplays, writing out great stories, whether it's fictional or non-fictional, the ability to express creatively. And it doesn't have to be just through writing, because nowadays, when we talk about Gemini energy, we understand all too well now that Gemini energy has become talking with their hands, right? Back in the day, it was just this, right? Or doing sign language. And I don't know sign language, so forgive me if I'm throwing things in the air and it doesn't make any sense. Become masters of this, right? We are literally talking with our hands when we're doing this. However, people used to have to do this, right? The scribes would always, the reporters, the ones tracking, watching, observing, thinking, and writing down. Gemini energy is very objective energy because it has the ability, it's typically denoted as a masculine energy, therefore being objective and blunt in its way that it's delivering information, okay? But what we are realizing and what we're coming to in our level of development, I'll put it like that, is the feminine side of our Gemini energy coming through much stronger than usual. Our Gemini energy, the feminine side is coming up, right? And so the big goal with Gemini energy is to get the left side and the right side of the brain working as one, to get the brain and the heart combined working as one, to get them to trigger the mind, the heart, the higher mind, our higher heart, to get all those things homogenized. And not that one is more important than the other, but the balance, the beautiful balance, the harmonization of our masculine and our feminine energies. And it's the only way, what I'm hearing is we bring, right, Mercury rules Gemini. So we bring Mercury through as more feminine, right? Mercury comes through like Tinkerbell, as opposed to, we would see Mercury as this messenger with the wings on the feet type of thing, moving really fast. I even think one of those, I think that was an old logo for, and maybe it might still be, for some flower company, show that they would deliver flowers professionally, and the deliverer, of course, was literally, it was Mercury, because it was like this little winged being, right, who had wings on the feet, meaning they were so speedy, they were fast. But that's Mercury. Well, it's all from the ancients. They left us all this knowledge. Super smart people. They learned all of this through observing, right, and from handing down tradition, oral traditions. And so we hold true to many of these because they're still relevant. However, humanity evolves, right? Every generation knows a little bit more than the previous generation, okay? And we grow, right? We change, we transform. And so the beauty of this location, it's all about your creative projects, okay? And the way that you communicate. Because it's the talker, this could be a great placement for someone who's not just doing this. It could be someone who speaks for a living, right? A public speaker. Depending upon some other things in your chart, this could be someone who sings. Eclipse it on the 30th at 9 degrees of Gemini energy in your 5th house. This is fun and children and romance. Like I said, dating, mating, relating, joy, right? Your joy and your creativity. It's how you have a good time with your body. Our 5th house is also not just physically having a good time with our body with somebody else one-on-one, but it's also sports. Right? It's being active, being physically fit, being busy, being fast and movement, lots of movement. Gemini energy is the way we talk and think and speak and relate and communicate. It's all the things I just talked about. However, with the North Node there, it's basically a focus on where you're headed. Okay, so for you, your Gemini energy, you're not just having an eclipse there, but the North Node is there. Again, this is children, romance, joy, creativity. It comes down to, remember, it's also sibling energy and people in my neighbors, in my community. But remember, Gemini, we can't forget, We can't forget, because the North Node is there, and the North Node is being squared by Neptune. Neptune is water. It also represents pandemic. That North Node energy is also represents our lungs in our body, right? Because it's our oxygen and our ability to talk and communicate. Gemini energy is an air sign, okay? It's a mutable air sign. It's mutable, which means it can change up. It can switch up. It's flexible. So when water and air square up, and if this is the lungs and this is water, this is like, even though this is pandemic Neptune and it's water, right, on the lungs squaring, this angle is here for some time, actually. And it's going to be tightly squared all the way until February of 2021. However, don't hold on to that in a way where it's keeping you fearful. But what you do want to do is be smart. You're practicing safe health routines. Okay, the sign of Virgo, which is how this pandemic all began. Virgo is about health routines. It's our work routines and our health routines. It's also hygiene. And what have we been doing since the pandemic began, right? It's been all about cleaning and sanitizing and making sure that we're washing our hands. I mean, yeah, we should have been doing it all along. When you have a pandemic, it's like, okay, now we need to do this times 20, times 30. And so now it's like, oh my gosh, we're going to be doing this for another full year. Yes, as long as the North Node is in Gemini energy, we're going to be doing this for another full year. This will be a highlight. This is an area of your life. When it comes to children, fun, joy, creativity, it means this is an area of your life where you're headed, all right? Because eventually the moon's nose will get there and they'll sit on this point, this 9-degree point. Now, it's going to be a big deal if you've got something at that 9 degrees. So if you don't know and you want to know, go below and I will find that out for you. And by the way, that is for free. You're a family member here of Allastrology, and this is what I do for you. I want you to know. I want you to know before you go. I want you to know thyself. Listening to these videos, whether your intent is to learn or not, over time, it'll all start making more sense. Because Aquarius, the sign of Aquarius is the sign of the astrologer. And that trines Gemini energy perfectly. It's a beautiful, sweet trine. And this is communication, and this is communicating astrology. So this information, it's not about someone ramming it down your throat. It's that it'll start to just make sense. It just adds ease. And so some way, somehow, listening to astrology, listening to me or other astrologers will bring a sense of ease. It'll be that knowing, that information and that knowledge. And when we shine a light on something, because that's what the information does, it shines a light. It gives us the power, the wisdom, so that we can make choices. So we can make educated choices, that we're not guessing, that we're not listening to somebody else or watching that square box and thinking that that is the end all be all of information. No, we have options. We can better ourselves. We can be our best selves. We can live our best beings when we empower ourselves with the knowledge. All right, Aquarius, so that takes me to December for you. The next eclipse, 23 degrees of Sagittarius energy. Now, 23 degrees of Sagittarius energy, you've got Sag energy over there in your 11th house. Your 11th house is your groups. It's your friendships. This is your social circles, all right? Remember, the 11th house is also astrology, but it's also science. It's also the scientists. It's also advancements for humanity, which is inventions. So when we think about like the coronavirus and a vaccine for the coronavirus, it's Aquarian energy. It's the 11th house. Aquarius rules the 11th house. Now, 23 degrees of Sagittarius energy for you. You're going to have Sagittarian energy there, and that Sagittarian energy is all about your future. Sagittarians, the Sagittarian energy is very expansive. It's got this view from way high up and above, right? Because it's that centaur who's got that arrow and pulls it back, and the arrow gets pulled back, and then it lets go, right? And the arrow goes flying straight up into the sky, up into the atmosphere, out into the cosmos. And it's like it's that goal-setting energy. It's that seeker energy. It's like, okay, I did this, what else can I do? I did this, what else can I do? Sagittarian energy is beautiful energy. It's very optimistic, okay? So when you have this in your 11th house, you can never have enough friends. This is what that would mean. The more people you have in your world, the better. The more people that you consider friends, the better. This is a typical This would be a typical meaning for having Sagittarius energy there. Now, what does it mean when you have an eclipse there? Solar South Node eclipse. Now, let me back up for 1 second here, because I just realized that the last eclipse, I kind of skated across it really quickly. You're going to be having this lunar north node. Now, because it's a lunar north node eclipse, now this is the one in November, the butt end of November, November 30th, the 9 degrees Gemini one. It means it's a full moon eclipse, okay? Which means we're letting go of something, okay? It's a let go. It's a completion, because that's what the moon is. That's what happens when we have a full moon. The full moon has a 28-day cycle. Once it gets to that day number 28, it's done. And then the very next day it goes back to day 1 and it starts something new. It starts all over again. So there's a completion with a full moon. But because it's an eclipse energy and it's a north node eclipse, this is that vibe where you're making room for the new. You're finishing something and you're like, okay, I'm done with this. So this goes over here. We don't need this anymore, or I'm giving this away. Now, being in your, where did I say this was? In your 5th house, your creative projects, right? So there might be some creative projects, some creative endeavors that you were working on that you're wrapping up, that you've completed. Whether you said, hey, I need to finish this by this date. No, it's not like that. This is just a natural cycle. Remember, this is what astrology is, just following the natural ebb and flow of how things work, the natural ebb and flow of the cosmos. And this is what's beautiful when you learn how to work with it. You recognize, okay, this is a time where I'm not necessarily beginning something, I'm wrapping something up. So there's a let go energy, but it's a letting go because something new is coming. And there's a promise of something new coming because it's a north node eclipse. And the north node is, this is your future. This is where you're headed. And so it has something to do with making sure that you're completing something and you're saying I'm done with it, because it gives you the opportunity, right? It's like a table and you've got all these different projects on it and then you finish them all up. But what do? Do you let them just sit on the table? No. You either box them up and get them gone and sell them, right? Or you put them up on the wall, or you give them away. And then what do you have? You've got your workspace clear, ready for the next new project. So it's a letting go. And being in that Gemini energy, typically it's going to be a letting go, not only of just a creative thing, but the ways in which you were using those creative things to communicate, to create and communicate, to communicate in a creative way, because it's Gemini, right? And so it's my creative means, my means of being creative and how I talk. And this is, again, sibling energy, neighbor energy, coworker energy. This is a big networking energy, right? But this is all about being able to make room for the new. And the future is coming. And the way in which we communicate and think, the way that we talk and relate and communicate to our neighbors, to our siblings, there's this whole thing going on that's been happening with all of us. With the Neptune and the pandemic, and this is a global thing, but it's changing. It has everything to do with how we talk and relate and communicate in our belief systems. And so this is lining up the next eclipse, because the next eclipse is now the Sagittarian eclipse. And the Sagittarian eclipse is at the exact opposite of the eclipse I talked about, right? Because Gemini is one end in your 5th house, and Sagittarius is at the opposite end in your 11th house of friendships, of groups. Okay, so it's interesting because you've got Gemini in your 5th, which is not just children, fun, romance, and creativity, but my romantic partnerships. It's like when you go dating and you have a good time, like that's your 5th house energy. And so the 11th house is groups and it's friendships. And when we talk about an eclipse being there, it's a change, right? So regardless of where the eclipse is happening, it's a guaranteed change coming in. Now, this will only be a huge deal for you if you have something that matches those degrees, which is why I give out the degrees. So you would want to find out if you have something there, okay? Because if you do, then it's kind of nice to have a heads up. And if you don't care, if you don't want a heads up, well, then don't inquire, right? But if you are curious, put your stuff down below and I will look it up for you. The December stuff, right? December 14th is where we talk about the next eclipse. December 14th, we've got it at 23 degrees of Sagittarius. Again, this is in your groups. This is your friendships. This is all about moving forward with people. It's like a humanitarian house. Remember, when I say internet, if I didn't, it is internet. I think I mentioned astrology, but it's also internet energy. And some folks especially with this lineup, some folks find that they like to be like go on those online dating things where you go on and you play like you want to be a friend, but you're really looking for something more than just a friend, right? And so it kind of has that vibe to it because it's this energy, Jupiter energy, that's Sagittarian energy, is Jupiter energy. It's very expansive, and it likes to add to things. It has this feeling of the more the better, the more the merrier. That's optimistic Jupiter, like, oh yeah, come on, let's do this, let's do that. Like the more people, the better, right? And so it's that really fun, vibey, friendly thing where it just feels like all about things being positive, having people in your life who also align with your spiritual beliefs, with your religious beliefs, because that's Sagittarian energy. For some people, it's very religious. Philosophy, belief systems line up with yours as well. But this is an eclipse time. And eclipses mean there's a change coming in that. So there's a belief that we're releasing. We'll just put it like that. A belief that you're releasing, Aquarius ascendant, has to do with groups, has to do with friendships. A lot of folks have told me already that they have been releasing groups that they've belonged to. Now let's dip into your January. In the month of January, a lot of things happen. I mean, more stuff happens in December. We're going to see like Jupiter lining up with Saturn. And so there will be initially some good news. But what's going to happen is Jupiter is going to pull away from Saturn. And we get into January because it's Jupiter and Saturn entering your sign, entering Aquarius. So now if you're Aquarius on your ascendant, having Saturn enter in your first house might not feel so hot because Saturn means restrictions. So Aquarian energy, typically Aquarius, the part of the body represents typically are the ankles. Okay, keep that in mind, it's ankles. But it can also be shocks and surprises because Uranus is the ruler, so it's nerves as well in the body. Keep that in mind, nerve energy. Now, Saturn getting into there, Saturn can restrict things because that's what Saturn does. Saturn sets up rules. Saturn likes to keep things in order and structured because that's what Saturn's job is. It comes into something and its job is to set order, is to organize things, it's to make things work better and to achieve a goal. And the only way to do that is we have to be organized. And there has to be steps. There has to be like we have to take these steps to get to this certain place, to get to that goal. And so Saturn comes in, but it comes in initially with Jupiter for you. Okay, and so that's good. And we'll notice that mid-December. So for you, you may not feel any negative effects or any structural changes within you right away because we have to wait for Jupiter to pull away. And Jupiter is not as slow as Saturn is. Jupiter will pull away from Saturn, which what will happen is when Jupiter pulls away, we may notice something different, okay? Because when Saturn and Jupiter are together, Jupiter tends to add to things. So it may feel initially like a lot of new rules, but at first there may be this optimism about it. Like, oh yeah, this is going to be wonderful. And then there also may be good news coming for the people because that's what Jupiter does when it goes into the sign of Aquarius. It's, I've got some good that I'm bringing to the people. So a lot of people, a lot of folks think this has so much to do with a virus vaccine because Uranus energy, which rules Aquarius, your energy is science, is scientists, is inventions. This would be the sign for vaccines. So it's fascinating because we've already in November started to hear about it because we already are having particular aspects. We're having Uranus standing still in Taurus. Anyway, not going to go into astrology a lesson for you, but what we want to talk about is that when you have Saturn entering your first house, there may be restrictions there. Now, I want you to keep this in mind. It's only a big deal when Saturn matches your rising sign degree. All right. Again, you would want to find out what that is. Okay. Because Saturn, there's 30 degrees to the sign of Aquarius. Okay. Which means it's the same as all the other signs in the zodiac. We all have 30 degrees. But Saturn will get to 0. Okay. And then it'll travel to 1 and then to 2 and then to 3. But all of us have a different degree of our rising sign. So you listening to me right now, your rising sign could be 22 degrees of Aquarius. So which means Saturn, it'll be all the way until, it'll take Saturn a long time to get to 22 degrees because it takes Saturn 2.5 years to transit, to travel through a sign. Okay. So for those who have an early degree in their rising sign, meaning if they've got a rising sign, like their ascendant is at like 0, 1, 2, or 3 degrees, they already felt this way back when Saturn first hit there because it got there and then it retrograded out like a year ago. But now Saturn's back and you would feel restrictions. And so this would be physical restrictions on your body because this is who you are. The ascendant represents your physical body, literally. Okay, it represents where you're located as well. So for those who have Aquarius on their ascendant and Saturn coming in, they may be the individuals, the folks who feel restrictions first before anybody else. And so that may be, you may live somewhere, whether you're out of the country, whether you're out of the US or whether you're in the US, you may be one of the first folks saying, okay, we're under lockdown now, okay? And so that's an everyday, practical, simple way to look at it. But also understanding there may be some restriction in your ankles, meaning you may feel, there may be some pain there. There might be some nerve issues that happen. I know this is a big deal for me because I have nerve issues and I've been going through them and I will continue to go through them because Uranus is in the sign of Taurus and Uranus rules Aquarius is nerves, right? So this is a big deal for me because I've got Uranus traveling through my 12th house, and well, the 12th house is Pisces, which is feet. And anyway, I'm going off on a lot of tangents, but this is exactly for me what I've got going on for me, nerve issues within my foot, right? And so it's something I'll be living with for a while. And yeah, I'm all joyous about it because I can see it on paper and it helps me to be like, okay, so I can kind of plot along and see, okay, this might get better at a certain time, because the promise of astrology is everything will change. Nothing will stay the same. The change is a guarantee, right? As they say, and this too shall pass. This is exactly why. We see it up there in the sky. Your January, okay, other than everything else I just said about having restrictions and all the Saturn stuff, and which is rules, was what it means. There's rules that come in. And we got a kitty cat who decided to show up. It's Taffy Apple. Say hello, Taffy. Come on. Come and join us. We'll have rules and restrictions, okay? Because that's what Saturn does, all right? It sets rules and restrictions because it wants things. It's to better humanity. It's to better group energy. And humanity is Aquarian, is Uranus, is your ascendant, is who you are. And so we'll just have to be okay with the new restrictions in our lives, even though we all feel as though we've already had lots of restrictions. But we, I think, are coming to the point where we realize we better start following some rules a little bit better. Because I know even where I live, there have been rules. Like I have a governor where I live. I'm in the state of Illinois. And immediately in February/March, he immediately came in and said, okay, we're going on lockdown. And then after the lockdown, he made mandatory the mask law, right? He said, okay, everybody has to have a mask on. Like businesses, if you have customers or if you have employees, that you're mandatory mask wearing. But I'm going to be real with you. I've gone into plenty of businesses where the employees have the mandatory masks on and the signs are up, but there are still customers, there are still patrons walking in there with no masks on. And it's like, right? Like what's up with that? The cat is just staring at the chart, by the way. She's just staring. I should put the camera. Okay, now she's not going to look at it. As soon as I said that, she's going to follow my hand. She sees my hand moving, so she turns her head. I was going to say I should turn the chart so that you can turn the camera so you could see her. They like to follow the cursor along on the screen. It's hilarious. Anyway, let's get to what else happens in January for you. You have Mars. Yes, we're talking about Mars for a reason because Mars moves, and it moves into the sign of Taurus. It finally leaves Aries, thank God, right? It was in retrograde in Aries for 6 months, but I'm holding this little heart in my hand because it's important. We got to stay true to what we feel is good for us. And there's no other time that is more important to talk to your heart than when this is occurring, okay? Because this is Mars in Taurus, okay? Mars in Taurus. What I want you to understand is that Taurus energy is fixed energy. Now, why is that important? Because Aquarius energy is fixed energy. So that means we're going to have a square between Mars, okay? Mars in Taurus will be squaring Saturn in Aquarius. It'll also be squaring Jupiter in Aquarius because Saturn and Jupiter are traveling in Aquarius, okay? So what we're going to be looking at, now remember, Mars isn't very slow and it does not stop or go retrograde while it's in Taurus. Thank God. Hi, beautiful. You want to look at the camera? She's got green eyes. This is Taffy and she's so beautiful. Hi, baby girl. You're looking at me really serious. So what happens is it's Mars, again, what I want to do with my body. But what happens is Aries, when Mars was in Aries, it wanted to fight. Okay, and it wanted to be free, and it wanted to act. It wanted to. She's playing with my my microphone. She thinks that the head, the fuzzy on the microphone, is a toy, and that she's supposed to eat it. You can see her pretty eyes. Oh, look at Taffy. She's looking at you. You got a blessing having Taffy show up in a reading. That's a big deal. Zoe shows up all the time. It's not that it's not a blessing, but to have Taffy show up. She shows up when she's like, isn't it time for me to have something to EAT? Can I have my TREAT? Can I have my SNACK? Or SNACK? No, you cannot have my microphone. Turn around. It was cute a minute ago. Oh, thank you for the kisses. But you're sitting on my keyboard. So what I'm going to get to for you is just simply that Mars will be moving through Taurus energy, and Taurus can be very stubborn. It refuses to move if it's told what to do. And it will more than likely act like this because the bull does not want to be told what to do. It doesn't want to be told when to do it, how to do it. And I know this. I'm a double bull. I completely understand the stubbornness of this energy. It gets very, when the bull gets mad, it charges. And this is a real thing. People see it sitting there in the pasture and like, God, it's kind of lame. Is it even alive? Is it even breathing? It's not moving. Because the bull likes to be peaceful. It likes to be at peace. And so if it's found a spot, right? If it's found a location, if it's found a place where it's happy, because the Taurus, all of its senses, smell, taste, touch, what it can see, what it can hear, all the five senses and more, all right? All the five senses and more. There are way more senses that we have other than our five senses, especially with Uranus in Taurus, okay? This is a big deal, okay? Very big deal. But with that happening, the Taurus being peaceful, right? Venus is its ruler. It wants things to be beautiful. It believes in things being fair and equal. It believes in just things being, cleanliness is a big deal. Order is a big deal because all that adds to the beauty of something. So if Saturn comes along, right? Saturn and Jupiter and that Aquarian energy comes along and it says, no, you can't do this anymore. We're telling you, you have to go over there. You can't come over here. You can't go any further. You have to stop, right? Because it sets up walls and borders and boundaries. And Taurus is just like, but what I want is over there. Like I go shopping over there, or my food is over there, or my fun is over there, right? Like what I want to do is over there. And it's told, no, you can't. So that's a problem. The bull gets mad, right? But luckily, the bull values peace more than anything. However, Mars is a fighter, is a born fighter. But Mars slows down a little bit when it's in Taurus energy. Okay, it's a little bit more reserved, which is good because Taurus tends to be a cautious energy. It's not like Aries energy. And here's the bonus. Mars is smarter than it was. It's more cautious than it was. Mars has developed thinking. You see, when it was in retrograde for 6 months, we were growing our Mars up. We were teaching Mars how to stop, how to listen, how to think, how to observe, and then make a decision before it takes action. You see, Mars used to be all about just go, 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 do, just charge, just run, just for the sake of being the first one out of the gate. That was how Mars was. It insisted it had to be at the front of the line. That's how Mars was. But over the last 6 months, it's learned that that's not always the best way to go, right? It's not always good to charge forward with the head down. It's probably smart to have your eyes open and to observe and to think and to calculate before you make some movements. So Mars in Taurus is going to be okay unless you have planets that the Mars sits on, okay? And this will happen for all of us when Mars gets to 8 degrees of Taurus because Uranus, your ruler, is at 8 degrees of Taurus energy, okay? So the date that I have, I have these dates for you, and I had to explain all that story time so that you could understand what was going to be happening. Also understand that Taurus is all about my values, all right? It's my love and what I value, okay? So this is a big deal because it's, hey, Taurus says, I want to go do that because I value that. That's important to me. So there is still this I'm not happy, I might get angry energy. And when Mars sits on top of Uranus, Uranus is shocks and surprises. Mars is, bursts of energy that come out of nowhere that are unpredictable. This is typically when you have Mars and Uranus together. For some folks, depending upon other angles, there have been many, many charts where people I've looked at and I've said, you know what? Stay home over this 3-day period. I don't want you to go out. Or if you do, have a buddy system. Like there's times when there's very highly combative energies where it's really better to just lay low. And when you have Mars on top of Uranus, it's a good time to lay low. It's a good time to not engage, right? Now, it's not going to be to that high extreme for everybody. For some people, it will be even more, right? More difficult. For some, not as difficult, because for some people, they may have nothing at these points. But the dates that I'm going to give you, the dates that you're going to be smart, right? Be smart about who you're with. Be smart about who you engage with, who you talk to. Your Taurus energy is at home. It's in your 4th house, which makes this interesting because I'm saying lay low. Well, typically when people lay low, they stay at home. Although some lay low when they're at work. But if we're in the middle of a pandemic and if there's a lockdown, which I'm kind of suggesting there will be, if it's not a full lockdown, there's definitely going to be rules in place, okay? And so being at home may be stressful, right? Because kids have been home. Now you're at home. Normally, this is a time when the kids get to go back to school because we're coming up off of Christmas vacation when the kids are normally heading back to school. And we're finding out, oh my God, the kids are not only not heading back to school, they're staying at home, but now I might be staying home. So, there might be a lot of anxiousness. There might be a lot of frustration at home right now, all right? And so this is where your Mars is transiting, where it's traveling through. It's traveling through your Taurian energy in your 4th house, okay? And so this is your emotional world as well, all right? So your emotions are going to be a little disruptive. You might be a little bit more impatient. There'll be a few days I'm going to give you so that you have a window, a realistic window of when to be highly aware. Jupiter squaring Uranus as well. That's going to happen this month too. And so that's around the 16th and the 17th, okay? On the 10th of January, you're going to feel Mars squaring up with Saturn. But for the next 2 weeks of that month, it's going to be a tricky time for navigating, all right? It's going to be a tricky time because it's going to be what I value, who I value, okay? Squaring up with with Jupiter in Aquarius, with Saturn in Aquarius. Now, Aquarian energies can represent the boss energy. So it could be the people at work, the people who are in charge, the CEOs. It can also represent the government. It can also represent people who are authority figures in your life. And it's the information that they're giving you because it's in Aquarian energy. And it's going to be information likely coming out of science because it's Aquarius and then from the astrologer. Like you're not hearing what I'm saying right now, I'm pretty sure. Nobody wants to hear this, right? Like, oh, I thought we just got done with all the hard stuff. And now you're telling me there's more hard stuff. Well, I think that if you know this kind of stuff in advance and you plan for it and you say, okay, I can navigate this, I can have buffers around or not, like digital buffers, or, you just learn how to navigate the potholes in the road, so to speak. That's how you look at it, right? You go on this road and you're like, well, I've been here before and I know there's a pothole over there and over there and over there. So what are you going to do? Are you going to head toward the pothole? No, you're going to drive around the pothole. Right? And so you figure out how to navigate the waters, right? It helps us to navigate the waters of life because sometimes those waters of life are choppy waters. Sometimes they're those treacherous white waters that can pull us under. But then what happens is we get this really strong thing occurring on the 16th, 17th, 18th, okay? Depending upon how sensitive you are. It gets really strong because that's when Mars is on top of Uranus. Mars is on top of Uranus, 7 degrees realistic. But then Uranus stands still. Uranus stands still on the 14th. And anytime a planet stands still, it's very strong. Okay, now they're going to tag team me. This is Zoe. She is here. Oh, no, wait, it's Taffy. It's Taffy Apple. Hey, baby girl, you came back. And she's standing right on the ephemeris. So that means it's probably time for her to, I'm not sure what she wants. She normally never comes up here during these readings. But I'm glad she's here because I love having the cats around. This is your 4th house, okay? But what I'm going to tell you to wrap this and connect it together, it is about yourself, where you're located at home, not just at home, but your physical body, your ascendant. But it's your physical body literally because that's where your Saturn and Jupiter energy are. But then this is your 4th house, your Taurus energy, your other fixed energy. It's at home. Okay, so now let me give you some good news to walk away with because we can at least give you a window of how long baby girl, can I have my book real quick? How long is Mars in Taurus? It's not forever. Okay, this is good news. It's not forever. Wait. It's going to get out of there by March. God, I know. I'm sorry that sounds like horrible. But the only time it's going to be a really big deal is when it's Mars on top of Uranus. Okay, get your ascendant degrees for me. If you don't know them, I will find that out for you. All you got to do is get your birth digits to me down below, okay? If you're uncomfortable, go to the website, astrog.com. You can put them in there. All it does is it sends me a personal email, okay? And nobody else reads it. This is just me and you, all right? Nobody else. But the thing is that as Mars transits, we can see if it's going to square your ascendant, all right? And then when is it going to square your ascendant, okay? Because you would want to know that just so that you can say, oh, that's that damn Mars, right? Mars isn't super slow, so it'll only square your ascendant for like a 3 or a 4 day window, okay? And so that will help to know in advance, but it's also the fact that it's squaring Jupiter and it's going to be conjunct Uranus. So this is all fixed energy, fixed, squaring fixed, but realizing that there will be some other benefits that we have coming along, okay? There will be some other beautiful things, and that's Venus energy. Venus energy will come through for you. Venus energy is going to be in the sign of Capricorn in the month of January, okay? And this is lovely, Venus in Capricorn, because Capricorn energy, this is where Pluto is sitting right now. This is where Saturn and Jupiter and Pluto were all sitting. Well, Venus comes by, and Venus will literally at the butt end of January. Well, having that in Earth means it'll send a benefit to your home. Your home is Earth. You have Taurus energy there, okay? So what you're going to see, there's going to be some relief that will come. Venus will come through. Now remember, Venus is a quick energy, I'm not going to lie, but it's Venus and Pluto together. So it's a deeply transformational benefit. Cellular solutions coming through for you. So find ways, even though you're at home and there's other people around, find ways to find time to be by yourself. To that you can hear the solutions coming through, so that you can hear the sound of your soul, so that you can get the peace that Venus brings. The wisdom that astrology can bring to you is your knowledge. It is the power that I put in your hands. What will you do with it?